Welcome back to How to Not Flip Your Kayak. And in part one of this series, we talked mostly about the forces of water, which can cause you to flip. But today we're going to add obstructions, which will induce a broach. And again, I'd like to thank all our stars of this episode. Here we see Kevin Champ perfectly demonstrating an incorrect broach technique. So thanks again to you guys who paddle with me, who actually provide these very important instructional lessons for the rest of the world. So what is a broach? That is basically when your boat becomes broadside to an obstacle in the river. This is usually what happens just before an upstream flip if you use incorrect technique. Now it's important to note this was Kevin's very first day in a whitewater kayak, so let's not judge too harshly that he used some bad technique. But this is a great example of how fast a broach will turn into a flip if you're not doing things correctly when you get there. The main point of failure in a broach comes from leaning the boat the wrong way. And you see the green bar has an upstream lean to the boat as he approaches the broach, which is a guaranteed failure point for your encounter on that rock. When you're dealing just with water and current, it can still happen quickly, but that rock or that log or tree, whatever you're about to encounter, is an exclamation mark on bad form. So basically, if you want to guarantee you flip in a broach, lean upstream and lean away from the rock or the obstacle you're about to bang into. And it's very, very fast. So watching again in real time, you'll see just how quickly the river flips Kevin. And that just emphasizes the need to have correct form as you're approaching any maneuver you do in kayaking, but especially with broaching. We'll use Kevin again. He actually does a pretty good job coming through this manky rapid. And there's a wall he's approaching. And as he comes into it, you can see the water really stack up on his upstream edge. And it just illustrates how quickly it happens. Basically, the second he touches this rock, you can watch the water load up upstream and push him underwater. Game over. And another example of what not to do. First, Adam broaches in the current, which is just water, and he does not lean away enough. He starts to, but then he dips his right edge, boom. And as you can see, he has the incorrect C, light blue, the incorrect boat angle in green, the force of the water, which is the dark blue arrow, pushing the right edge down, and the reaction is the left edge of the boat going up, which is the red arrow, and this almost causes a flip, but he pulls it out and gets lucky. Unfortunately now he's heading into a broach on the pillow directly in front of his kayak. And a pillow is basically where water mounds up on a rock or obstacle. And that's actually what saves him. As you see, he's ramping up on the pillow now, leaning away from the rock, which is loading water on his left edge, and pushing his right edge up in the air, about to flip him until he bottoms out on the rock itself and kind of resets his boat angle where he starts going down through the rapid backwards. Now while I got it paused here, this is the instinctual reaction. So in a rapid, when you're about to broach, there is some forward momentum, sometimes a lot of forward momentum, and the body's reaction to knowing it's about to stop on that rock is to lean away from the rock to balance the body. I know it feels wrong when you're learning, but trust me, this is the wrong answer for kayaking. And in this case, as you see, he got lucky on the rock. Unfortunately, right there, he did not get so lucky as the water got him. So what should you do? We're going to keep it simple and start with leaning into the rock. So here I am on the French Broad, and it's pretty tricky to maneuver in these loaded boats, but I really should have been where the green arrow is in that flume. Unfortunately now I'm being driven into that pillow rock, which is one of the harder types in some regards and easier in others. What a pillow rock will do is it will decide the boat angle of your lean for you, because the bottom of your boat is also interacting with the rock, not just the side of your boat. So that's why we're starting with this example. All I can do when I land on it is lean my body. The boat will not lift that edge because it's being driven onto the bottom of that rock. So it's like I'm sitting on a parking lot with extra weight on that left side. Very hard to pull that edge up. So as you see, when I make contact, I just throw my body into the rock, away from the current. There is a no paddle zone I have up there. Do not set your paddle upstream of your boat if you're ever broached in current or in a broach against a rock or a tree. That will initiate a paddle trip and under you will go. My forward momentum, shown by the yellow arrow, will carry me off this broach, and that's the next key. You will need forward momentum or backwards momentum, but you will need to get some momentum in one direction or another to get off the broach. And no harm, no foul, I just bounce off the rock. Now, unfortunately, Adam entertained the same broach and had different results. So here he's swimming, and now there's a lot going on. We got to recover Adam and his boat and his paddle. And first thing I need to do is scan downstream, which you see me doing here. I've got to go out into current to intercept and get in a position to help, but I got to know what's out there. So always look, and I've determined that there are some hazards. I'm still looking at Adam, looking for his paddle. You can hear me yelling instructions, and now I look back and say, hey, that's a broach. So there's 3 of them in a row. I need to go where the yellow arrow is pointing. The water's going to push me into these broaches. There's really no way to avoid it. So as you can see, I'm getting a little forward momentum, and I am actually going to interact with the rock. I'm not going to just let it happen to me. And what that means in this case is as I approach the rock, I'm going to push off before my boat makes contact. So you can see the yellow bar is vertical. I've got some boat angle represented by the green bar, and my body lean is the blue bar. I'm all leaning to the rock. I'm countering the force of the current, but as you can see with my right hand, I'm pushing back off the rock before my boat makes contact. I do not want my boat to become locked into or anchored on that rock, and then I'm at the mercy of the current. I want to be proactive, keep my boat off the rock. I think I can slip over that one, and now I need to do the same to this. And I'm also keeping my forward momentum to get me off the broach, and there I am at Adam's paddle, and I'm in a position to help. There are some situations where you cannot help yourself, and you see Greg here starts with a piton and then finishes up with a good locked-in broach. Now Greg never panics. He is leaning a little downstream, but he's trying to free himself, and when he cannot do it, I just get his attention, tell him just, you're stable, don't move. And I shortly thereafter got out of the boat and got him off the rock. Now both that last situation with Greg and this one with Yackleberry here on the French Broad, these are broaches where there's more than one point of contact on the boat, and that can be called an end-to-end broach or a 2-point pin. But this is becoming a pin situation because the current has locked the boat onto the object, and this can become more dangerous very quickly. And so staying stable is going to be a very important component of that. If you are stable, you need to stop moving and allow someone time to come and assist you. Your head's out of the water, you can breathe, your boat's not undulating up and down, about to capsize, but just if you're locked in and you're stable, just keep your position. Someone needs to come and assist you with that broach situation. And broaches can happen in very placid waters. As you see, my son here finds what we call a rockopotamus, just a little pillow rock, and it just gets him sideways enough and just dumps him. And they'll often happen when you're least expecting them. Of course, on the other side of the spectrum, we have some Class 4 whitewater, where a friend of mine who is a whitewater canoeist has broached at the bottom of a waterfall, and you can really see him exaggerating everything to make it work. He's got the correct boat angle, very aggressive for the water he's in, and you kind of have to match the force of the water, so he's really leaning hard to offset that downward push. You can see he's forming the correct C. He's really leaning that body over the rock, which is causing a lot of lift on his upstream side, indicated by yellow, offsetting the window shading that is trying to occur, which is represented by the red arrow. And as you see him go through that, he does this just perfectly, and it looks like nothing happened, and that's what we're looking for. And of course, this works in all water. Here I break it down. These two reactionary waves are not normally as pronounced at higher water, and they knock me off course. Where I wanted to be is boat angle left, sitting where the green boat is represented, boofing off that rock and heading to the left. But instead, I'm now pushed into the room of doom, where we got a lot of water stacking up in this little bowl. So I do a little backstroke, get my boat aimed the right direction, a forward stroke for momentum, and lean into the rock. You see my boat angle is offsetting the force of the water. Got my paddle on the downstream side and a little forward momentum, and it's like nothing happened. Again, that's what we're looking for. So we're basically just applying some simple physics. We're matching what the force of the water is trying to do to your kayak, and we're going to offset that by using proper form and technique to whatever degree is necessary to offset the forces there. And it's very proactive. Here you see Kevin, used to higher water, also gets pushed into the room of doom. The water was a little lower than we're used to, and he really found it well. And that's a pretty solid broach. You see his head, he's leaning hard into the rock and not panicking, and he's off. And these are whitewater kayaks, so they allow you to recover a lot better than my tripping kayaks or touring kayaks. But I'm just exaggerating these examples so you can see the principles at play. In whitewater, it happens all the time. You see Kevin just, without thinking, reacts perfectly to the next broach he encounters. And it's not even something you think about, it's just something your muscle memory takes over and does. And hopefully that's where you'll get, no matter what kayak or skill level you're at. And in this next situation, Greg actually finds himself in a very dangerous situation. If he goes under this log, he may not come out. There's branches on the back side of this log from the other tree. This is a nightmare scenario. He is completely broached and locked in, and I had to wait till he stabilized to know how to help him, where I intentionally broach myself on the log and get out and assist Greg as quickly as possible before he sucked under that log. Very dicey situation. If he had sucked under, I would have needed to go downstream to effect the rescue. Fortunately, Greg does not panic. Very good character trait for a kayaker, and he stabilized, and I was able to get him off that log there. And I'll leave you with one final one I'm sure you will all enjoy. I find myself here on the Pt2, again at a lower water level than I'm used to, and I get a little lazy and a little lax, and I'm just following my buddy Delane down, and I'm not paying attention to that glaring pillow rock waiting on me there in the outflow of this little nothing rapid. Now I'm only off by about 1 foot too far to the left. My boat angle should have been to the right a little bit, and I should have been a foot to the right, and I would have missed that whole thing. And it really just goes to show again how fast it'll happen if you're leaning the wrong way. I won't do any diagrams past this point. I'll let you watch and see what happens, and hope you get a good laugh out of it.
Loserville! What is that? I may be able to do that one a little bit worse. I have to try.